السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله على إحسانه وشكر له على تفضله وامتنانه، ولا إله إلا الله تعظيما لشأنه، وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله داعي إلى رضوانه وعلى آله وأصحابه وإخوانه، أما بعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف لام ميم. غلبت الروم في أدنى الأرض وهم من بعد غلبهم سيغلبون في بضع سنين، لله الأمر من قبل ومن بعد، ويومئذ يفرح المؤمنون بنصر الله ينصر من يشاء وهو العزيز الرحيم. وعد الله لا يخلف الله وعده ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. إخواني في الله, we are continuing with our lecture series regarding the minor signs of the Day of Judgment. Sign number 51 from the signs of the Day of Judgment: كثرة الروم وقتالهم للمسلمين. The Europeans will be the majority of the world population and they shall fight the Muslims. Sign number 51: كثرة الروم وقتالهم للمسلمين. The Romans, the Europeans, shall be the majority of the world population and they shall fight the Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ says, تقوم الساعة والروم أكثر الناس. Before the Day of Judgment, the majority of the people in the world will be the white man, the Europeans, the Roman Empire. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu was told about this hadith. He panicked in a way, the general of the Muslims. He says to the person narrated to him, انظر أبصر ما تقول. What are you saying? Be careful. Are you sure what you're saying? This man says, I heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. Before the Day of Judgment, the majority of the people shall be from the Roman Empire, from the Europeans. These are the North Americans and the majority of the Europeans. And they shall be the majority of the people in the world. In a different hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, from the signs of the Day of Judgment, ثُمَّ هُدْنَا تَكُونُ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَ بَنِي الْأَصْفَرِ. There shall be a peace agreement between you Muslims and the Europeans. You shall fight a great war with them. Then there shall be a peace agreement. فَيَغْدُرُونَ. These Europeans will break the agreement. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِنَّهُمْ لَا أَحْدَ لَهُمْ لَا إِيمَانَ لَهُمْ. Every time they make a peace agreement with the Muslims, they always break it. In the entire history, this has been the way of the Europeans. They always betray the agreements they have with the Muslims. ثُمَّ فَيَأْتُونَكُمْ تَحْتَ 80 غَايَةٍ. Then these Europeans will come attack you, all Muslims, in your lands with 80 flags. With how many flags? 80 flags. تحت كل غاية 12,000. Under every flag is 12,000 soldiers. In a different hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, one day there was a wind blowing in Kufa, in Iraq. So some of the people, they panicked. They rushed to the Sahabi Abdullah bin Mas'ud. And they say to Abdullah bin Mas'ud, the day of Qiyamah has come. The day of Qiyamah has come. He says, listen to me. The day of Qiyamah will not come until the Muslims will get war booty, but they don't even want it. They don't want to share it. They don't want any part of it. And there will be inheritance, but there will be no one to take that inheritance. He says, عَدُوٌ يَجْمَعُونَ لِأَهْلِ الْإِسْلام. A great enemy will gather to fight the people of Islam. وَيَجْمَعَ لَهُمْ أَهْلُ الْإِسلام. And the Muslims will gather to fight them. قُلْتُ الروم تعني, is it the Romans, is it the Europeans who are going to attack us as Muslims? قال نعم. He says yes. وَتَكُونُ عِنْدَ ذَاكُمْ الْقِتَالِ رِدَّةً شَدِيدًا. And when we are fighting the Europeans, a large group of the Muslims shall leave our camp and join the enemies. They shall leave the fold of Islam. Then he continues, he says that the Muslims will choose a group from amongst them to go fight the Europeans. The Europeans have come with a great army of 1 million to the lands of Muslims in Syria, in Asham. So it's Muslims versus the white man, the Europeans. So a group of the Muslims will say, we're going to fight fi sabilillah until we either destroy the Europeans or we are killed. So day one begins. A group of Muslims, they go fight to the Europeans. They fight very bravely, but all of them lose their lives. Nightfall comes. Day two, a second group of Muslims say, we're going to fight fi sabilillah, for the sake of the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the greatest war that's ever going to be seen on the face of earth. Muslims versus the enemies of Islam, mostly from the Romans, from the Europeans. Day two, a group of Muslims, they go fight the white man again. They fight bravely, this group, and they're killed. Day three, a group of Muslims, they say, we are going to fight imma nasr wa imma shahada. Either we lose our lives or we get victory. And they fight bravely also, and they lose their lives. And on the fourth day, the whole group of Muslims, all the Muslims that are present in the land of Asham will fight the white man, will fight the Europeans, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them victory. He continues, on that day there will be so much death that a bird will be flying over the dead bodies, and because of the stench, because of the bad smell of the dying bodies, that bird will fall down dead. He says, on that day, a man who had 100 children, he had 100 boys, he loses all his sons except one son. Except how many sons? One. Out of how many? 100. He says, radiallahu anhu, he says, فَبِأَيِّ غَنِيمًا يَفْرَحْ. This one who is left, how will he be happy? I've lost 99 brothers, but I've gotten all this wealth. أَوْ أَيِّ مِيرَاثٍ يُقَاسَمْ. And what inheritance is he looking forward to when he has lost 99% of his family? And as the Muslims are in that state, the shaitan will shout and scream that the Masih al-Dajjal has appeared in their lands, and they shall rush back to fight the Masih al-Dajjal. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, I know those people who will fight the Europeans. I know their names, the names of their fathers, the names of their horses. هم خير فوارس على ظهر الأرض يومئذ. They are the best soldiers of Allah on that day. The Prophet ﷺ says in a different hadith, لا تقوم الساعة حتى ينزل الروم بالأعماق أو بدابق. The hour will not come until the Muslims shall fight the white man in a place in Syria called A'maq or Dabiq. So an army will come from the city of Medina. The Prophet ﷺ says that the best people on that day. So they will put their army forward to fight the Europeans. The Europeans will tell them, before we fight, we have a request. There are some refugees amongst you. There are some Europeans amongst you who have accepted Islam. Give us our brothers, we deal with them as we want. The Muslims will say, Wallahi, we shall never betray our brothers. We shall never betray our brothers. So they fight a great battle. The Prophet ﷺ says, a third of the army will run away. A third of the army of the Muslims will run away. Another third will be killed, and are the best martyrs in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another third, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them victory. And this is the army that shall go ahead and conquer the city of Constantinople, the city of Istanbul, which will have been taken from the Muslims. And they shall conquer it with takbir and tahleel. The Prophet ﷺ says a different hadith, إِنَّ فُسْطَاطَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ يَوْمَ الْمَلْحَمَةِ فِي أَرْضٍ بِالْغُوطَةِ فِي مَدِينَةٍ يُقَالُ لَهَا دِمَشْقٍ مِنْ خَيْرِ مَدَائِنِ الشَّامِ. He says that the fortress of the Muslims, in the day the great battle will occur between us Muslims and the white man and the Europeans, في أرض بالغوطة, is a place called Ghuta, in a city that is one of the best cities of Allah on the face of earth, the city of Damascus. The city of Damascus. Ikhwani fillah, there's an important point. I don't know if I should mention it. Some of the Muslims, they read the signs of the Day of Judgment. And I'm going to mention later, inshallah, in the next coming weeks, that some of them, they read the signs of the Day of Judgment, and they, out of their own desires or wishful thinking, they went and they attacked the mosque in Mecca. And they captured the city of Mecca, not the city, they captured the Grand Mosque in Mecca. And they caused a great fitna in Mecca. because of reading the signs of the Day of Judgment, and Shaitan misguided them, and they thought that they were the ones mentioned in this hadith. Are you together? That they are the army that's going to fight the Europeans or the white man. Sign number 52 from the signs of the Day of Judgment we shall be taking next week, and this is how the Muslims shall conquer one of the cities that is considered as not able to be conquered. And this is the city of Istanbul. The Prophet ﷺ is mentioned in a number of hadiths that this is a great city for us as Muslims to conquer. So from the time of the Sahaba, Muslims used to try to conquer this particular city, the city of Istanbul. Napoleon, the leader of France, Napoleon Bonaparte, he says, if there was a city that is fit to be the capital city of the world, it is this city of Constantinople. And that is the greatest catastrophe ever to fall European or the Christian world. They lost this city to the Muslims. And it has been known from that day as the city of Islam, Istanbul, currently pronounced as Istanbul. We are going to lose this city of Istanbul. And the Muslims are going to conquer it again. And that is one of the signs of the Day of Judgment, sign number 52.